Well, here we are, day 10 of our confidence series. Thank you so much for those of you who have been on this journey with me. I hope it's been really educational and informational for you along the way. As I promised, what I wanted to do today is answer some of those questions that have been the most frequently asked over the last 10 days. And so I've put together a bit of a list, and I've summarized the key things that you've been asking. Some of it is about clarification, some of it's about understanding the process a little bit better. So I want to walk through each of these 10 questions I've got in front of me that correlate to the process we've been going through over the last 10 days. So the first question is, how do I stop overthinking on game day or competition day or trial? In the same way that when we were looking at how we build confidence in our performance, we talked about trust. Now, we focused initially on our preparation and our preparation process. We talked a lot about the funneling system that we teach athletes, which allows them to get to the night before an event and go, yeah, I might not feel comfortable, might feel nervous, but I know, I'm trusting that what I've done has prepared me. So this structural thinking over emotional thinking allows us to trust and to know and to better understand. What we didn't discuss this week is we build exactly the same thing for game day, for competition day, for trials. So that same structural process that we go through to get to that point of the night before and go, yeah, I know, I might not feel comfortable, but I know. We want to have exactly the same kind of framework on competition day. So understanding that trust comes from process, not from feeling. What tends to happen is an athlete will get to, and a coach sometimes, to be honest with you, will get to game day and they'll change what they do. They'll change their language. They'll change things around them. And that raises emotion. And it teaches an athlete that training was one thing and game day is something different. Whereas necessarily when we're talking about performance, it's not. So how do we stop overthinking? Have a process, have something to follow, have a framework. And that's something we teach every athlete to support their preparation. The second question, because we talked a lot about visualization, and that was actually one of our biggest hits on the video content we put out. People wanted to know much, much more about visualization. I've got quite a few questions about what if I can't visualize? What if I can't see the image inside our head? Look, there is a condition called aphantasia. Aphantasia is a disconnect between our prefrontal cortex, the boss in the office, and our visual cortex. And if they're not communicating, then there are a percentage of people that just can't see an image. I have to apologize, someone's just mowing their lawn right next to me. That wasn't there when I started. So aphantasia is a real condition, and it does affect people, but we estimate it affects less than 1% of people, which means if you're having an issue with your visualization, it's probably because you haven't learnt how to visualize efficiently and effective. So like every single skill that we learn, we have to go through a learning process. We have to create it and then trust it. Visualization is no different. So if you're having difficulty seeing the image clearly, if you're just getting a blank screen, or you're getting highly emotive imagery come through and you think, I just can't visualize, it's not for me, it's probably because you haven't learned how to visualize properly. So that's a strategy. We have different trainings for that, and different processes we take. I think I said to you, we take athletes through 7 different styles of visualization. He's really noisy, isn't he? There's 7 different styles of visualization, and each one has a very unique purpose. And if one style of visualization is something you're having a challenge with getting comfortable with, then there are other strategies that we can implement that will build that bridge. The next question we got was, I get overly nervous at training. Now, more historically, what we hear is people get really nervous around competition or game day. That seems to be the thing that they struggle or have the biggest challenge with. But we still do get people come to us and talk to us about, every time I go training, it's a really anxious time. I don't enjoy my training. I just wish game day or competition day was here. So what happens with athletes who, I use the analogy of being in an F1 car and just putting your foot flat to the floor, one of three things are going to happen. You're either going to crash, something on that F1 vehicle is going to break, or you're going to run out of fuel. That's this analogy too. So if you're going to training and you're treating every single training session like game day or competition day, and you're going in there with that mindset, it's got to be perfect, it's got to be right, then emotionally you're going to be burnt out. You're going to run out of fuel. So what we teach is we teach student mode and we teach performer mode. Student mode has a very, very clear purpose. That's to go in and learn, and that's to be able to push boundaries, make mistakes, trial things. And so you have a much lower emotional toll on that mindset when you're going in there. So having very clear purpose and objectives allow you to pick, is this a student mode? Is this performer mode? So if that's you, if you're going training and you absolutely hate going training and you just want that competition day to turn up, the reality is you've probably not built your preparation and your training schedule to the way to optimize. The fourth question, and I had this a lot over these last 10 days. When we stood here, and I purposely came back to the same location that we started this journey 10 days ago, I said that this has been one of the biggest years for people contacting us saying, my pre-season has started, my training started, even a lot of competition seasons have already started, and I'm feeling really anxious. So the question we've had this week a lot is, this stuff is great, but is it too late? The short answer to that is absolutely not. Like everything, whether you're learning a new skill, whether you're learning a new routine, there's times where it's optimal. And pre-season is optimal time to learn the structure. The analogy I tend to use with people when they first start learning mental behavior strategies and techniques is, it's like the old snow globe, yeah? The Christmas thing that used to pick it up, shake it, and all the white snow would go around inside the little bubble, and then it would settle again. Our brains are no different. When we learn anything new and we challenge what we've done for a long time, it's like shaking that snow globe. Everything's going to go up in the air, but it will settle. And if there's a structure and a process around how it settles, it will happen fairly quickly. So is there a transitional period? Yes, very short transitional period. Is it too late? Absolutely not. If you've watched these videos over the last 10 days and recognize some of your confidence issues are structural, are mindset, then getting in and making that change, initiating that change will absolutely improve this season. Then you can go on and you can build and layer and structure. So consequence of that is follow-on seasons get better and better and better. So no, it's not too late, and there are things that we can do to absolutely get you involved in building a better mental process. This was an interesting one, and I had a few of these from athletes. What if my coach makes me more nervous? I had some coach ones and I had some parent ones too. I had some athletes who turned around and said, it's my parents that make me nervous. Some said it's my coach. Both parents and coaches are human. And I worked with a high performance athlete once. I got pulled in by the coach and said, this athlete can't perform. They're no good when it comes to competition. Will you come and will you fix them? Which is always a strange request. But I went and I observed this athlete train, then I observed this athlete competing. What I noticed was the way that they trained was optimized. It was fantastic. And when they came to competition, they initially looked absolutely fantastic too. They looked like they knew exactly what they were going to do and how they were going to do that. But then the coach stepped in and goes, but don't forget this. And then the athlete went to go and compete. Come back. Don't forget this, and then don't forget that. And what that coach was doing was keeping that athlete in student mode, wasn't allowing them to go into performer mode. So as parents and as coaches, We have a responsibility that when our athletes get to the night before an event and they've gone through their funnel process, they've got a great structure, they're trusting their preparation, and then our role as the parent or the coach is to trust them too, is to allow them to go into performer mode. And more often than not, it's the coach and the parents are coming from a place of fear too. I want to do more, I want to help them more, I want to give them more. At that stage, it's not about giving them any more, it's about allowing them to execute what they know. So if you're an athlete and you're asking me, what do I do to stop my parents, or what do I do to stop my coach from making me nervous? The reality is your coach and your parents have just as important role in your mental preparation as you do, and that's about communication. This next one, number 6, I vomit on game days, or I can't stop shaking. That's just purely adrenaline, and it's heightened emotion. And that heightened emotion is creating a distrust, and it's put us in that fight or flight situation. Remember I said to you, our body does a lot of amazing things when we're scared. Part of that is it will shut down your immune system. Remember, it makes us more susceptible to bugs and viruses that are going around. It shuts down our long-term memory because it thinks we don't need that. It also increases our adrenaline. Adrenaline makes us shake. Adrenaline can also make us vomit. So these two parts to the puzzle really is getting to game day and trusting, reducing the emotion. And when you reduce the emotion, you reduce the amount of adrenaline flying through our body. So it's just all a consequence, and the reality is your body's doing exactly what it's designed to do. It's designed to put you in that fight or flight, to get you out of danger, to look after you and protect you. And if we're not giving it the right kind of data to say that, hey, you know what, I've got this, then it's going to keep doing exactly what it's designed to do. I'm going to move away from the guy mowing. Question number 7 was, I have no control over my training. And look, and I hear this a lot. I've worked with both individuals and I've been embedded in a lot of high performance teams, from rugby teams to cricket teams. And what we tend to see is the coaching staff will come in and they'll create the day's training program. This happens with individuals as well. But if you're going there and you're only following their program, which is important that you do, you follow their program. It's important that you understand that what they're building is a team. But the best version of you, everyone benefits from. So there's 2 things that you can do here. You can do extras. You can do things over and above what the structure of the training has been put together. And if you've got a really good communication with your coach and they turn and say, this is what we're focusing on today, you can look at that, follow that and say, what do I need to do to add more value to that process for me that day? So you can certainly collaborate with your coach and understand what the program and the process is, and then look at it from an individual perspective. You can also add different kinds of training thought process, different values, different objectives, different focus. So we talk about focal currency. Where are you spending your focus? If you're spending your focus on just doing what other people tell you to do, then you're never going to trust. So if you spend your focus on recognizing that this is how it benefits me specifically, then your focus is going to have a much higher ROI. I hope that makes sense. The next question was really interesting. I got an athlete who was 11 and say, am I too young? And I got another, within about 20 minutes, got one from an athlete who was 32 and said, am I too old? Again, the short answer to both of those is absolutely not. I've taught visualization techniques to 8-year-olds, and you know what? Because they're young and they're malleable in their thought processes and they're very creative in their minds, visualization works incredibly well for young athletes. And I'm a huge believer in building a foundation to grow on rather than try and patch holes as they get older. So absolutely not. If you're, for that athlete who reached out to me who's 11, you're in the prime spot to learn things like visualization and process. The 30 plus athlete, I'll tell you this, I've worked with 60-year-olds and above who have wanted to learn how to go into masters competitions and still be able to visualize, still be able to perform. So if you're in your 30s, then there's people twice your age who are learning these techniques. There is a component to how we learn. So younger people do learn differently to people in their 20s, to people in their 30s and their 40s. And we know that once we hit 45, we start to taper off that learning structure. So it becomes a little bit different again. But that's a whole different training. But in answer to your question, you're not too young and you're certainly not too old. The next one was, I've had a mental block for 2 years. Now, we spoke about mental blocks, and what the brain is doing is removing part of that blueprint to protect you. So until you convince your brain that it doesn't need to hold on to part of that blueprint, you will maintain that mental block. And the key thing about mental blocks is when you've got one mental block and you don't deal with it, your brain will go, yeah, but what about this? And then, but what about this? And it will start to permeate through everything that you do. It might start as one skill, but can end up in absolutely everything that you do, including your school, including your business, including your communication. So it's important that you deal with things. But that being said, I've had athletes come to me who've had mental blocks for 5 years, and they had each year structured their routines differently in an effort not to address that mental block. Yet when we fixed the mental block, when we convinced the brain that it can put that part of the puzzle back together, that domino, then it became a very easy process within a couple of days to start getting all those skills back. So what I'd say to you is, don't wait. If it's been 2 years, don't let it be 3. If it's been 2 weeks, don't let it be 3. So get in there, address it, and recognize that there's things that you can absolutely do. Okay, so the next question was a really interesting one again. It was, I keep getting really close to selection and then making fatal mistakes with my performance and not making selection. So we call this diving for the line. I see a lot of athletes who will follow their process, follow the structure that we've built all the way up right until that critical tipping point. And that's what we call it. We call it a tipping point into the next phase. And then they'll get all the way up there and then they'll change strategy. So for me, that doesn't make sense. Why would I do something that's working and then get to the point where it's most important and change it? So the fact that we can follow the process, and our processes are designed to go from the start all the way through your career. If it's working, keep doing it. Because when it's working, that's you. When it's not working, that's you. So you get to fix it. So what I would recommend is, if you're that athlete who keeps getting to that point, that tipping point, and then making mistakes, it's because you don't trust the process yet. So I'd like you to contact me again and we can talk about that. The next one is, I'm a parent, and I want to say thank you to all the parents who have joined this over the last few days, because there have been so many parents reaching out and saying, nobody ever taught me this stuff. Nobody's ever turned around and told me I have a part to play in this. I work with the athlete, the coach and the parent. I think it's critical that everybody has a role to play. Everybody understands how they do that role, and parents are no different. When I'm working in a club or an organisation, I always run parent evenings where they can ask questions, and what they might think is a strange question, you'll probably find is very, very common. So parents, absolutely reach out. I'm happy to answer any more questions. If you are a parent group, then we can certainly run trainings for you to better understand working, not only raising children that are athletes, but raising children who are elite athletes. Okay, the last 2 questions. I'm an athlete, what do I do next? So we run a program called the Mental Gladiator. It's a 30-day immersion online program, and it teaches you how to prepare and how to perform with that structure we're talking about. So the athletes, and our target demographic of this is high school and above, because we find that they're at that stage where they do have a lot more buy-in to do what they need to do. So I would definitely recommend, if you're an athlete and you want to take what you've learned over the last 10 days to the next level, that Mental Gladiator is our program that I would recommend. I've also had a lot of coaches who have gone, this is really interesting, I hadn't put this in my coaching philosophy before, but I want to learn more. We have a membership program called Main Arena Coach, and the whole idea of this is a weekly hour-and-a-half live Zoom session with multiple coaches in multiple different disciplines, and we learn this stuff. We go through it and we look at it from a context of how does it affect me and my coaching. So coaches, go to smartmind.com or reach out directly to me and I'll send you the link. We've got an intake of Main Arena Coach coming up, and athletes, same thing. We've got an intake next month of the Gladiator for athletes. This coming Sunday, we've still got that free Performing with Confidence workshop is on Zoom. There'll be a link below. I've gone over this one, it was a really long one, because I really wanted to address all of those questions. But if you really do want to go to the next level, we've now got 3 options there. If you're a coach, join our membership group. If you're an athlete, absolutely sign up for the Mental Gladiator. If you're still sitting on the fence and you think, I just want to know a little bit more, then come along this Sunday the 19th and I will do a live Zoom training for you on Performing with Confidence. I've really enjoyed these last 10 days, a lot more than I thought I would, to be honest with you. I've walked you around my neighbourhood, all different bays. Hope you've enjoyed that too. Thanks very much for following. If you want to know more, please reach out. If you want other things for us to focus on, so if you're a coach and you want these kind of things for coaches, then let us know and I'm happy to try and put some things together. My name's Dave Diggle and it's been an absolute pleasure spending the last 10 days with you.